Hello, Buckeye fans. I'm Patrick Murphy here with Steve Hellwagon from Bucknuts and 24/7 Sports. We are standing right outside of the Woody Hayes Athletic Center right here. Different location today than we normally do it. Not inside the facility, but we just got done with an hour plus with Ryan Day. Steve, a lot was talked about in there. Where do you want to start?
Oh my goodness. And I hope you can hear us. As soon as we start this up, they're tilling some stuff over here, doing some landscaping, getting it spring football ready here at the Woody Hayes Athletic Center. So hopefully they won't be running that machine a whole lot. But man, this machine right here, it feels like it's back up and running at full occupancy based on what you could hear from Ryan Day. And he just seemed kind of energized, I suppose, by everything that had happened and everything that's transpired in the last 6 weeks, basically from the Cotton Bowl on, and obviously the gains that they made in the transfer portal, hiring Bill O'Brien. He talked at length that if that sticks, if Bill O'Brien doesn't go to Boston College, and believe it or not, this is crazy, we missed this by 90 seconds. Bill O'Brien just parked his car over there and just walked right by us with his Ohio State backpack. So we have a visual on Bill O'Brien.
He was here today.
He is working at Ohio State today, and in fact is inside that building right now. So that's all a good thing. But Coach talked at length about giving up the play calling and what that'll free him up to do. And he talked about, on a Wednesday night and you're sitting there and you're conjuring it's 3rd and 4 at the 21-yard line. What are we supposed to do in this gotta-have-it situation? And it's all-consuming, and yet he's being pulled away to go deal with an NIL issue and pulled away to deal with a transfer portal guy and pulled away to do recruiting and pulled away to do fundraising and pulled away to do this.
Yep.
Plus, it will allow him to oversee the defense, oversee special teams in a broader and larger sense, and also be there as the resource that the offensive staff will need, certainly going forward, his counsel and certainly his decision-making on, okay, this is the game situation. This is how we should be approaching this from an offensive standpoint. So I personally was excited to hear everything that I heard listening to Ryan Day today talk about Bill O'Brien, and if you hope it sticks. I asked him, I said, okay, Bill Belichick retires. Bill O'Brien, is done with the Patriots, and he kind of fell in their lap, and it just locked into place. And I think it was official on January the 19th is when it was finally official. And yet in the weeks prior to that, certainly Ryan Day had been working with other people with that job opening. And now, if just complete supposition, if something were to happen and Bill O'Brien is not to stay at Ohio State for whatever reason, goes on to Boston College, then he said that, you have to come up with a contingency plan. And he doesn't rule out the fact that he may still be calling plays if they don't find the right person for this season. So
yeah, I thought
O'Brien to me was kind of the overarching thing, but there have been so many developments within this program in the last 6 weeks since we talked about the Cotton Bowl that there was 1 hour of stuff, and we got the video posted on bucknuts.com on the front page. That's the story. He's wearing his red blazer, speaking on National Signing Day, the old National Signing Day. They added one guy today, Dominic Kirk, from Painesville, Ohio, a defensive lineman who was committed previously to Washington, and he never signed in December for whatever reason. I don't know what that was all about, but at any rate, they got him in. Larry Johnson liked him. Mark Pantoni suggested him. And Ryan Day made sure it was a culture fit, and they all signed off on it. And now Dominic Kirk is going to play for Ohio State.
Yeah, my understanding briefly on the Kirks thing was that, Ohio State got involved. And then he
kiboshed the signature.
Yeah, it was like, well, let's hold off here on signing. There's no rush
Kalen
to sign.
DeBoer's going to be in Alabama in 4 weeks, so just hang tight.
Yeah, so that seems to be the situation there. He's an Ohio kid, as Steve mentioned. Going back to Bill O'Brien and Ryan Day, you mentioned it. Ryan Day said that he had to have the right guy, right? It wasn't just any offensive coordinator was going to come in and give play calling to. And Bill O'Brien is that right guy for now. But if he leaves, Ryan Day wasn't fully committed to say the next guy would be the play caller, that he may still have to do that if they can't find a guy who he trusts to do it. I thought that was interesting. I still believe that they will find that guy. As you said, they had their process with other people before finalizing things with Bill O'Brien. So there are names out there they've already talked to, some that we've talked about that have been reported, others that probably haven't because Bill O'Brien wasn't widely reported, right? So for me, I think it's going to be very interesting to follow this. I am not ruling out Bill O'Brien staying at Ohio State yet. As Steve mentioned, we just saw him. He's here. He's doing the job. We heard about that earlier in the week. So we'll see what happens. There's been a lot of reporting from various levels about what's going on in Boston College. Maybe the only person that actually knows what Bill O'Brien is going to do is Bill O'Brien. And right now he's in this building. So I think you feel good about that if you're a Buckeye fan. And I think Ryan Day's willingness to give things up. And he talked about, look, play calling is what I think Tim May from Letterman Row asked him. Play calling is the fun part, right? It's like when you're playing video games, you get to pick the plays and things like that. That's what got Ryan Day to this point, but he's realized that his job, his role has changed, and he needs to be the best at that, which is overseeing everything. And I think that's important to keep in mind as we go forward. Let's go to the transfer guys, because we've talked to them already, and Ryan Day talked at various levels about each. I think the only guy he didn't talk about was tight end Wills Kazmarek, which kind of fits the under the radar approach of him. But Will Howard was probably the most talked about. Caleb Downs, Seth McLaughlin, and Quinshon Judkins as well. It sounds like they have tried to keep the same approach, but the opportunity to go get some of these guys was just too good to pass up. Is that kind of how you read it, the situation?
Oh, no doubt about it. They were ecstatic to get Seth McLaughlin, a guy with his experience, to come in and be an anchor, I think, for that offensive line. Will Howard, listening to Will Howard speak, he kind of made it sound like Ohio State was his overarching choice the whole time. And they kind of settled on one another. It felt like in mid-December, but they kept it all under wraps because they didn't want to preempt Lincoln Kienholz and Devin Brown and what they would do with the team in the Cotton Bowl and kind of cut the legs out from underneath of that. So they kept that quiet, and it wasn't until January 5th, I think, when Will Howard finally went public with the idea that he was going to come to transfer to Ohio State. So I think the timing of that was all very interesting, and it felt and seemed like he was their guy. It was very interesting to hear Coach Day admit that to beat the team up north, you've got to be able to run the football, and one component of that is the threat and the ability of your quarterback to run the ball. And obviously Will Howard was a little bit of a running quarterback at Kansas State as well. He's a big guy. 6'4", 230, something in that realm.
And every bit of it, too.
Every bit of it. Yeah, he's a big guy. And they like how he's assimilated and become a leader. He says you don't, just show up in the huddle and you're suddenly the leader of the Ohio State football team as the quarterback. You become a leader in this wing of the building down here. The Mickey Marotti wing of the building is where the leadership traits are grown and developed. And that they like how Will Howard and Caleb Downs in particular, Quinshon Judkins, the running back, have all assimilated to this program. Told a story about how when Quinshon Judkins went into the portal, they talked to Travion Henderson. Travion Henderson at that point had not announced he was coming back. And they said, hey.
At least publicly.
Yeah, publicly. We got a chance to go get Quinshon Judkins. What do you think about that? And Travion Henderson said, if this guy makes our team better, go get him. They went to Quinshon Judkins and said, well, Travion hasn't announced it publicly that he's coming back yet or not, but there is the prospect that if you come to play at Ohio State, we'll have Travion Henderson coming back for his senior year. What do you think about that? And Quinshon was like, look, I want to win a national championship. I want to play at the highest level. I want the best coaching, boom, boom, boom. It suddenly became an interlocking culture fit on all sides with every one of these guys. And just the depth of the discussions that they had to have in such a short window of time is what's remarkable. Just how they build these relationships, and it isn't something that just manifests itself overnight. It's something that they have to work on constantly. It's a constant communication, and I don't think how you could be any more impressed with what you heard. There's a lot of people out there down on Ryan Day. 3 straight 11-2 seasons. I get it. 3 straight losses to Michigan. 3 straight years with no Big Ten championship, et cetera, et cetera. But to me, the way they have managed this situation, and the way they have come out of this situation, to me, it just speaks volumes about where this program's at right now. I think, am I predicting they're going to win the national championship? No, I'm not going to stand here and say, oh, they're going to go 16-0 and they're going to win it all and it's going to be easy. And it's not going to be easy. There's going to be a tough game at Oregon. They could lose that game, still make the playoffs, still make a deep run, maybe compete for the national championship. Whatever is going to happen is going to happen. But they have positioned themselves to do that. I asked you about the offensive line. I said it feels like that is the Achilles heel holding this team back from winning the national championship in 2024. Is that being addressed? Obviously, they're going to go against one of the best defensive lines in the country. They got their tails kicked by that defensive line all spring right here on those practice fields right there all spring long last year. And then they went out and got Josh Simmons to try and piecemeal something together to get through the season. And they didn't really even get through the season. Obviously, it all unraveled. Michigan and certainly Missouri was a disaster. Although, you think about that game and just one quick thought about it is like when the opponent knows that the quarterback has never played a down of football under the gun, either quarterback, the game plan for them defensively kind of changes. It's like,
well, he's changed the offensive line too.
Yeah. And then they had an internal change in the offensive line as well. But I just think that was a difficult situation to expect anybody to flourish in, and they certainly didn't. So that's why tying that up into a bow, and now it's got to be better. And that's one other thing. Bill O'Brien's been here 2-3 weeks. He has looked at all the tape and made some discussion and some judgments about the offensive line, things he likes, things he doesn't like. And even if he doesn't stay or ever coaches a game here, they've had his input in this short period of time, as Coach Day said, another set of eyes on it to see these are the issues. This is what needs to be fixed.
Yeah. Well, and I think to something to point out, and I've said this a couple times, but Ryan Day brought it up today. They're going to evaluate the guys in the building and then see what happens with the transfer portal. And he pointed out that there are some young guys in that offensive line room that are really good.
Taker Toshbola, Luke Montgomery.
Yep, those are the two.
He said it's a big spring for those two guys.
Yes, absolutely. And he said there's enough talent on this roster right now to win a national championship.
Yes.
And that includes the offensive line. Now, those guys have to develop, they have to do the things, and it's not just those guys. Obviously, everyone has to do that. But I think you in the transfer portal era, you think, okay, go get a guy, right? Well, there are some guys in this program that they recruited that are still pretty good, and you have to give a chance to some of those guys at times. Now, going back to the transfer portal, Caleb Downs, a very exciting guy that they got. Ryan Day stopped short of saying he would just step into that safety job. We know he will, but he said, you
can't say it, but you know it. You know
said,
it, but you can't say it.
He said, he was a freshman All-American, second team All-American, whatever all the accolades were. So, he's very talented. But then he also talked about how Caleb Downs be given opportunities to do other things outside of just playing safety. Mentioned punt return, mentioned watching him in high school as a ball carrier. And that was something that they talked about during the very brief recruiting process. So I don't know. I don't know if Caleb Downs ever carries the football for Ohio State, but I thought it was interesting that Ryan Day brought that up in a public setting, that he could potentially, do more than just play safety. This is a very skilled football player, not just safety. He just happens to play that position. So we'll see on that. The other thing Ryan Day really highlighted was the importance of the players returning. And you've got, 9 guys, I think? 9 juniors?
He talked about that 7 or 8 different times. Yeah. Just how important it was to keep Jack Sawyer, JT Tuimoloau, the whole list of them, guys who have played football at a high level and can play at even higher level. He mentioned 7 or 8 guys who could have been selected in the first 3 rounds of the NFL draft, and that they all decided to come back to Ohio State. So you look at it that way, that's just a gain in and of itself to be able to add those kind of guys to this bottom line.
Yeah, and he made it seem like, thanks, Jerry. He made it seem like Jack Sawyer was the ringleader of that group, which is not surprising if you've heard Jack talk over these last couple months, even going back to before the Cotton Bowl, when he kind of hinted at not only him coming back, but other guys as well. But he mentioned Jack Sawyer, being a guy who kind of got all those guys together and said, we've got to come back and finish this thing the right way. He also mentioned that even a guy like Marvin Harrison gave some thought. I don't imagine it was very long, given where Marvin Harrison's about to be drafted, but some thought to coming back to finish that career at Ohio State the way that, you know, everyone expected it to be. Marvin Harrison, not a guy who will have ever beaten Michigan or any of those things, but you know, that was an opportunity that was too good to pass up for sure. Beyond those things, what else was there that we should mention?
That was a lot of the long and short of it. Says that Jeremiah Smith has been impressive.
Yep.
Said Justin Sain has been impressive as true fresh. Or I'm sorry, Julian.
I do that too.
I call it Justin and Julian. My brain. But Jeremiah Smith remarked that that he's come in and started out his time at Ohio State the right way, and that signing day experience was remarkable in his standpoint, just because of the back and forth and everything that transpired on that day about getting everything down the way it needed to be to get Jeremiah Smith to sign with the Buckeyes. So just these are experiences and NIL and transfer portal that are first time for a lot of people going through this, and it's been remarkable from the outside, somebody who works on the outside of this building, to see everything, how it is just kind of all clicked, and it's not a finished product. It's February. He said there's excitement for what could happen in the fall, but it's a long way off, and a lot of hard work's got to take place between now and then.
Yeah, I think that's the key. You see it in sports all the time. Teams can quote unquote win the off season, but that doesn't matter if you don't get the job done during the season.
Yeah.
And in this process leading up, it's a long way till they kick off, right?
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of things that will have to take place between now and then. We'll be there to cover it all. We're going to go get some lunch. Ryan Day is going to be on the radio here.
Yeah, I think he's getting ready to do his radio show, I presume, on all the network stations at 12 o'clock today, I think. So.
Yep. So coming up here, if you're watching this live, coming up here shortly, you'll get to hear from Ryan Day. You've heard from us. Steve's already got the video up from Ryan Day's press conference on Bucknuts, like we said, and we'll have plenty more coverage throughout the day and in the coming weeks. And we expect to get more stuff next week too. So thanks for tuning in, guys, and we will talk to you soon.